Going crazy. All right. It's game time. Go time.
Ready.
I'm like, please, nobody come to my door. So my dog's gonna freak out. Okay, I think we are live. Let's look here. People are filing in as we vamp and speak here. I feel like a Instagram influencer, like just waiting for people to show up and watch my hair tutorial.
You are an influencer, an ambition influencer.
I am. Well, so as everyone joins here, I'll do some housekeeping and then we'll introduce ourselves. So light housekeeping. If you are joining right now, we are always going to send you a recording. I think I wrote that in 5 different places throughout the registration process. But if you need to leave or if you want to share this with other people, we got you covered. So you will get that tomorrow or even later today if I can get it together. Depends on what happens after this webinar. You're also muted. Please ask questions throughout. So type those into the Q&A area or chat. I may not see them as we go through because we are going to be just having a fun chit chat today. But I will do my best. We'll definitely get them at the end of the presentation. And that's pretty much it. So I'm Jamie. I'm from Ambition's marketing team. I work with our enterprise and partner functions here, and I get to work with Mark all the time. So Mark, who are you? What do you do?
Hi, everybody. I am Mark McWaters. I lead the sales team here at Ambition. Been here 4 years, started carrying my own bag before getting into this role. So lucky to work with good people like Jamie.
Oh, hush. Well, and Mark is a beloved figure here at Ambition, and really what we're going to talk about today. So our presentation, as you probably saw because you registered for it, is 4 tips for higher impact sales coaching that won't destroy your schedule or soul. I'll get into what that means here in a second. But really what we're going to talk about today is just hard-won sort of wisdom from our day-to-day and from working with clients day in and day out, like you guys. So here we go. So why is coaching important? I'm very proud of these animations. So coaching is important for a number of reasons. So number one, here's some stats. You close more deals. So 28% win rate increases on average when people are doing consistent coaching programs. You also make more money from those deals. So there's an increase in revenue when people and when reps are, using coaching and learning on a consistent basis. Which is important because you're investing a lot. So with our budgets, talent is a big one for us. I know on average, the Bridge Group found that an average rep, it takes $10,000 to $15,000 to get that person up, onboarded, hired, all that good stuff. Unfortunately, though, people are not then reinvesting in learning and training once those reps get up and off the ground there. And that is a shame because, and this stat was in the description of this webinar, it's a biggie. 80% of the training that people are learning is being forgotten in 3 months if it isn't consistently reinforced. So you can't just bring in the rockstar sales trainer at the SKO once a year and expect everybody to just retain everything that they learned. I mean, think about that. I watched something on YouTube and 5 minutes later, I'm like, what?
Yeah, I'd argue this is like even 1 month, maybe.
Yeah. Or like 3 days, 3 weeks. Especially when people are in one fell swoop, like learning everything at once, that's, you just can't learn that way. And that sucks, frankly, because over 60% of salespeople are likely to leave their job if their manager is a poor coach. This is just one stat like this. We did a poll a few years ago and found very similar things. Salespeople are consistently looking for guidance, skill reinforcement, sort of upskilling as things change. And as we all know, a lot changed over the past year. So it is really vital that you have a plan in place to make sure that your reps have what they need to be successful as we all kind of navigate some bumps along the way here. So today we are going to look at very specifically how Mark organizes his week, because as cool as coaching is, it is a really daunting sort of idea. You have It's not the only thing that you're responsible for as a sales leader. So how you can organize your time, we'll show you one example, and we'd love to honestly hear how you guys do it. So let us know in the comments. We're going to talk about just how you set goals. So what are those daily activities that need to happen every day that you need to be reinforcing so that people can get to where you need them to be. We're going to look at just what you should say in a one-on-one, because that's really the place where the magic is happening. And then we're going to talk about just creating some action plans so that as you're coaching, those things can carry with those reps, and they have some goalposts along the way. So tip number one is make a coaching schedule and stick to it, because time is money. So the world according to Mark, I've trademarked this, as you can see, so you have to pay me every time you say it. But Mark, I literally just wrote down what you said the other day. Walk me through sort of your philosophy around coaching here.
Yeah, so this really all starts in the fact, as a coach, one of the things that concerns me the most is we are changing a lot very quickly. There's rarely one thing changing at Ambition. It's often many. And how do I communicate that to super busy salespeople and communicate in a way that actually sticks? And the truth is, I don't think there is a way to do that in just one form or one
Mhm.
message or one forum. I
Yeah.
think there has to be multiple ways to do this, which we'll get into here in just a minute. But the idea of prioritizing my week around the most important deals that need to be closed in a role like mine, that is certainly priority number one.
Mhm.
And associated with that very closely is whatever current initiative we are driving for the sales team. So whether that be outbound pipeline generation in Q2 because Q2 is a critical pipeline month, or a new proof of concept strategy and enterprise deals that aligns the customer and ambition closer for a more predictable outcome on both sides. There are so many examples of what this could be. And the truth is, it's rarely the same thing month over month. It is
Yeah.
changing often, and there's usually multiple. So, how do we structure a week that is helpful to the salesperson and helpful to me at managing that change?
Totally. Well, hey guys, I'm going to show you. So I made Mark just tell me what he does in a week, and then I sprinkled marketing fairy dust on it and made it a picture. This is so fun, Mark. You can take this anywhere you want. But this is a visual. I'm not a graphic designer. This is a visual representation of Mark's week. So walk me through what we're seeing here.
Sure. All right. So there's a lot here, but let's start on Monday. Okay. And I'll walk through it as we go through the week. So every Monday morning, I'm in Nashville on Central Time at 8 a.m. Central. I've got a team on East Coast time too, but we will at 8 a.m. Central, we have a sales team meeting. Everybody's there. And in that sales team meeting, the first thing we're covering is a forecast update. So for Ambition, we have two forecast statuses, commit and upside. Commit is that the prospect, the future customer has told us it will happen by this date. Upside for us is that based on the rep's experience, they think they will win by close date in CRM. So the reps are going through those things first. We talk about it every Monday morning. There is value in the sales rep sharing it with their team. And of course, there's value with them sharing it with me, who often knows what those things already are. But we share that first. That typically takes 15, 20 minutes as a team. Then we move into whatever the current initiative is that Ambition is driving. It may not even be sales focused. It might be a new customer success strategy that I need to make sure everyone articulate well in the sales process, right? So whatever that main initiative is comes after the forecast review. That is Monday, first thing. Now, I am also a firm believer to move you over to Tuesday in that if you can, all of your one-on-ones should sit at the beginning of the week. Why do I think that? It's important that you and the person on your team are aligned on whatever is most important to you, to them, to these initiatives that we talked about on Monday or Tuesday. So if you looked at my calendar, Monday there's next to no free time. Tuesday looks very similarly. Do I wish I had more free time on those days? Sure, but I'm prioritizing the fact that my reps need that time early in the week, so we are aligned throughout the
Mhm.
week. Now, layering on top of this is that we use Slack, and there are ways to do this outside of Slack, but we have a daily stand up in Slack that is 3 questions. What did you accomplish yesterday? What do you plan to accomplish today? What else? That's it. Probably takes the salesperson 5 minutes to do this. This comes out at 7 a.m. local. It's not expected to be completed that early, but I
I was
want
about to
them to have
say.
that when they start their day, right?
Yeah.
So they fill that out. It goes into a team channel where everyone on the sales team can see what rep A is focused on today, what they got done yesterday, and if there's anything else they want to share. So that is happening each day of the week. And actually, as a company here at Ambition, we all do that.
Yeah.
So I certainly recommend that. There are a bunch of free options to do that, by the way.
Yeah.
If you have Slack, I think ours is called GeekBot.
Yeah. I was gonna say Geekbot is my fave. My fave
Yeah.
thing every day.
There you go, GeekBot, free
Yeah.
plug.
Free plug.
Okay, so Wednesday, just the stand up. Usually there are calls happening here that I need to be a part of. Thursday, there is one meeting at the end of the day that we call game film. It isn't always a call review. Oftentimes it's focused on whatever this initiative we're driving is and an example of how Rep A did this well in a call that we have recorded that we can talk through with the team. So Thursday afternoon, I deliberately do it at the very end of the day. Oftentimes, there's fewer sales calls at that time,
Mhm.
and it's just a good way to end the day. There's learning, there's conversation, there's driving home that thing that I talked about on Monday that we've probably hit on in some stand-ups throughout the week. On Thursday, we're covering it last thing, and then on Friday at Ambition, we have a go-to-market call which is everyone on the go-to-market team. So marketing, sales, customer success, product, even some of our engineers who aren't a GTM join. And this is a recap call of what has happened this week that's important. So as a sales leader, I'm talking through forecast changes, closed won deals that have happened. We'll tell stories around why they came to Ambition, how we're helping them. But the story I want you to hear, and this is a lot of talking, is that Monday we start, Friday we wrap, and in between we have multiple ways to communicate this initiative or these important deals and what is changing.
Mhm.
Now, I am certain there is someone on this that's going, Mark, that feels like a lot. And there's probably a good argument there. What I would tell you is that if you're in a fast growing company like Ambition, if you're in one of these that you're hiring constantly and you're figuring out where you play best constantly, the way things rapidly change, you have to
It's
communicate
vital.
over and over and over again. Because even your top rep, your alpha rep, your unicorn, they are going to miss the things that you
Yeah.
communicate because there's so much happening so fast.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, on top of that, I myself and my counterpart, Mary, we work really closely with the SDR, BDR team being in marketing. And so we even outside of these meetings that Mark is having with his team have some channels with them via Slack and a meeting today where we just go through stuff that it really isn't probably appropriate for like the broader team, but we have a few inbound reps, for example, who will need to know exactly what the content of this webinar was, exactly how we plan to, when I'm going to send you the recording and all of those kind of things. And so to Mark's point, that's all I'm going to communicate to those reps this week is that we are having a webinar. Here's what it's about. Yeah. And Jeff had a great question. Actually, a few questions. So how long is the Friday meeting? We try to keep it, we have a very strict agenda for that go to market meeting every week, which I love. We didn't used to. It used to be a little bit more Wild Wild West, but it's a very strict agenda, and everyone, like marketing goes, then sales, then this, then that. And so we wrap up when we do. We can go an hour, but sometimes it's 20 minutes long if we don't have a
Yeah,
lot
Jeff,
to talk about.
this is a great, we just moved through the funnel. So marketing
Yeah.
kicks it off, then sales development, then sales, then customer success, then product. Each group's going 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, what we as a leadership team talk about to what Jamie just shared is make sure you're driving home the one thing people need to hear. There's a lot happening on that call. Don't be long-winded. Let's talk about the one. And in fact,
I don't get to talk a lot.
you'll hear me say, "Hey, team, like the one thing I want you to take from this is X."
Yeah.
So,
That's a
uh,
great point. That's a great point. Yeah, we covered a lot in last week's meeting specifically. And I've said some stuff, other people said some things, and Mark was like, the one thing we want people to know is about this integration. Like there's an integration that's coming up, sneak peek.
stay
That's
tuned,
really
y'all. It's big
that's
news.
really exciting, and will open up a lot of doors for all kinds of conversations. And Mark was like, just hey, we talked for 30 minutes, 15 different people talked, this is the thing that matters right now. And I think that's a great point. And it wasn't the webinar, but
One other real quick piece on that, if you're just starting if you're like, okay, we don't do that, but I could see value in that. A
yeah.
great thing to add to that meeting at the end is shout outs.
Yes.
Um, you will, in fact, like we eventually had to kind of shorten that because it was
It was too
happening
much.
almost too
It's like,
much.
did everybody do a great job?
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, if you're just starting that, that's a great tip.
Yeah.
And then Jeff, I saw your other question
Yeah.
on the length of one-on-ones. Mine are 45 minutes. So I hold them for 45 minutes. The hope is that that last 15 minutes of the hour is where I can follow up and do whatever I need to do to help them. Um, Oftentimes, a deliverable comes out of that one-on-one for me, just like it comes out of the rep of how I can connect the dots in some sale or a customer
Yeah.
referral or whatever it is.
and
Um,
and
so
we'll look at
yeah,
what you do specifically in a minute too for
okay.
that. That's a great question. So that was wonderful. This is Mark's, this is our real schedule. We're probably like saying way too much. I hope none of our competitors are on this call. But this is it. This is
No,
the
they
real.
need to be good coaches too. So
Yeah,
hey,
that's true. That's true. We're gonna level everybody up. So next, so that is just how to organize your time. We will send these slides out too. So that's why I made a cool calendar there. So tip two though is, you can make all the time in the world, but if the content of what you're talking about and what you're focusing on is not data driven, that consistency is just, you're just meeting to meet at that point. So tip two is fall in love with your sales formula. Don't be afraid to take it slow and get it right. So Mark, walk me through. We mentioned a funnel. I was gonna go. Here's another thing that looks funnily. So tell me what this is.
yes. So this is a very simple example of a sales formula. So when I talk about sales formula, I'm talking about what math are you using to drive from the first outbound or inbound activity on your team to the close one or close loss that's happening in conversations. And so this is a very simple version that you're looking at here. But the reason we say fall in love with your sales formula, if you're out there and saying, Mark, I don't have a formula, I would tell you, you got to start somewhere. Even if you're like, oh, in my industry, we're very old school. We just care if people win. That's it. Trust me, eventually someone in your industry is going to figure out their formula and they're going to lap you. Like you have to understand the math because you're able to then take that math and help people be more successful. So in what we're talking about here is like dials that lead to a connect. We actually talk to someone. Those lead to meetings. Those lead to sales qualified leads, like a new opportunity. And obviously there are some things that happen in between. But in this example, it leads to closed one. So the reason that formula becomes so important is it creates accountability within your team around the right selling behaviors. And again, if you don't know what the math should be, start tracking it. And I would tell you, make it very achievable at the beginning. I don't 15 dials a day or something like that. That is whatever your KPI is, make it very achievable and start there and then start to scale it up to understand really where you should be. Now, if you have
Mhm.
historical data, by all means, the answer is there. Go pull that, even if it's not perfect. you still have that data that you can use to create your sales formula. So the accountability becomes important, especially in this work from home normal now, that Mark needs to know if he had a good day or a bad day, or a good week or a bad week. And Jamie, as Mark's boss, needs to know, did Mark have a good week or a bad week?
Yeah.
And when you're in the corner of your bedroom at your standing desk, like, you may be able to hide a little easier than you used to in your office, right? So being able to have that formula creates the alignment between a manager and an employee. It's clear expectations, and ultimately it's creating the accountability of how you as a sales rep or whatever role at your company can be successful.
And speaking of, so, Mark, obviously, as VP of sales, he is interfacing most directly on a weekly basis with our account executive team. So we also have a leader over the BDR, SDR function, who might be having those one-on-ones, correct? Like he's
Yep.
having the weekly one-on-ones with the giant team of the webinar boss. And the Mark is meeting with a smaller unit, but a very impactful team, very impactful team to our business. So this is actually, I just stole this. This is just a spreadsheet view. We actually have this as a template. I will make sure you all get this template. And then if you're a customer, for sure, I'm going to make sure that you get another presentation that we just did a couple of weeks ago that is very, very detailed on how to build your formula in Ambition. So I will make sure you guys get that. But Mark, walk me through this input metric scorecard and how this math kind of works, because this is
Yeah.
real. This is a real one.
So for our account executive team, and the background on kind of what we're primarily selling to is, we're typically targeting larger organizations. So whether you define that as enterprise or a certain amount of employees, our sales cycle is not highly transactional. It requires some time in order for us to win. So in what we build for an account executive's daily scorecard, I can't have like closed won deals, because you're not going to win a deal every day, not yet. Uh, but so the way we structure it right now is that I expect our account executives to hold 3 meetings with external email addresses, is how we track it. So for those out there, I'll give you the tech here, because maybe you have a similar tech stack. But we're logging this information in Salesforce. We also use Chorus for call recording. Chorus logs a meeting in Salesforce because we have them connected. We are able to read that we had a meeting with an external email address, and that will count as one sales meeting when it shows up in Ambition, which we'll see the Ambition version of this in just a second. So I really wait, as you see here, that they hold meetings. Holding those meetings is more important than if they make 12 outbound dials, right? So what I also expect them to do is have the 12 outbound dials, and at our connect rate, they'll connect with 3 people out of those 12 dials. And then we have targeted activities, which is a blended metric that is calls plus personalized email. So this is not spray and pray email, get to 42. It's that you have your 12 calls, then you have 30 emails that are personalized to current opportunities, to new potential prospects and outbound. And that is lumping together in this targeted activities. So you'll see here in the way I weight these, it is telling an account executives, meetings are the most important thing that you can do at Ambition. And then it's fairly even actually between the weight of call connects, outbound targets, and targeted activities of how those fall together. But the most important thing you can do is meet with our prospects and customers.
And I will show too. So this is actually I show Colin because he's doing really well. So I hope he doesn't mind. This is Colin's actual scorecard here, but I bring up this example. So this was something we will send you. This is just a spreadsheet. But this is that spreadsheet sort of visualized in Ambition. So Jelena messaged in, and she had a great question about how, and I read this, Jelena, and actually you can clarify for me if you are an individual contributor. So what is your role, Jelena? You let me know, but she was asking sort of like, okay, well, how do I organize my day around that data? So that's a great scorecard, but like, what does my day look like? How do I track it? And so you can kind of actually, with this example, probably Mark, explain
Yeah.
what Colin's
Yeah.
experience
So
is
again,
like.
this
Yeah.
the more transactional the team, the more
Yes.
that grind exists.
Yes.
And that
And her team is
grind is
highly transactional, she
tough.
says. Yeah.
I mean, I was an appointment setter for a mobile home company back in 2006,
Sexy.
I guess, or 2007. Like, I know that feeling in a very transactional role.
Hmm.
And so, what you would probably have here, Jelena, similar to our sales development reps, is that they have an outbound call expectation of 50 outbound calls. Well, depending on the role, but let's just call it 50 outbound calls. They're going to connect with 3 to 5 people in those 50 outbound calls. They have a targeted activity expectation as well. And what you're doing in that, I see you mentioned that you have like a bunch of different accounts in different states. And even if you're like geo based, you can tag accounts based on who owns them. And that way you know how to give credit for these transactional activities and that they're targeting the right accounts. Like you can see in Colin's example where it says outbound calls dash named accounts. That's a list that Ambition has made that I have given him, that those are the ones he should focus on. A lot of companies use similar strategies here. But ultimately, this activity score, it's like a Fitbit for your team. It is updating in essentially real time, telling Colin if he's a BDR or SDR on your team, if he's having a good day or a bad day.
Exactly. When I
That
was,
kind of real time feedback is what pushes him to make the next dial, to send the next email, to whatever, have talk time. We actually have talk time, and I forgot about that on our SDR scorecards as well.
yeah. And I was going to say for the highly transactional roles, this honestly becomes even more effective than for maybe the AE sort of, you know, example, because it is a little bit of a slower cadence. It's maybe easier in your brain to keep up with how many emails you've sent. But yeah, when you're a BDR that has to make 100, 200 calls a day or whatever it may be, just even knowing where you are, like you can lose count probably pretty quickly in that, especially if you have a dialer or that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So it's probably really helpful to, I would imagine, at a higher transactional role.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jelena, when what I think about for a person in that role, they're typically younger. They're typically
Hmm.
pretty green at what this looks like. It's like their entry level role into whatever kind of sales, for us, software sales. Those people have grown up with Google giving them an answer to every question they
Yeah,
had. They have the pedometer that tells them how many steps they take in real time. Like they are used to that kind of guidance. Why not give that kind of guidance at work, right?
exactly. Well, Angelina was asking, and we can kind of dig into offline as well, because I know we have a lot more to cover, but specifically, she was asking, how do you know, do alarm bells go off when I go off track? And I think that's another huge part of this. So you can set up any kind of alert, because she's the senior director of sales. So she's managing these people. So yeah, she can set up
Sure.
real-time alerts, or we have some clients I know that it's like by 10 a.m. if they've done the math, their formula is like really dialed in, so it's like by 10 a.m. if they haven't done X, then we're not going to make the day. So I know I've got to like spin up a contest, or we got to do a blitz, or some sort of thing. And you probably have way better examples than that, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Jelena, whether it's an ambition or something needs to alert you. As a manager, you just don't have time to dig into reports to figure this stuff out in
yeah,
real time. It's impossible. You're sitting on a call, you're coaching somebody else, whatever it is. So you have to find a way to get that pushed to you if possible. And
absolutely.
as a sales leader, like it's not helpful to me unless it pushes it to me,
Yeah,
because very rarely do I have the time or am not distracted with something else that's more important, that I can go in and figure those things out quickly.
well, and specifically with ambition, look at me on marketing team selling over here. But you know I know how many dials the SDRs made every day. Like, and that's not necessarily a metric that I'm responsible for tracking, but I am in the channel where that is happening. So I can go in and celebrate them and keep them pumped up. I also know, how many sales accepted leads, which is a metric that marketing is responsible for coming in. So I can see that visibility, even though, I'm not managing those people too, which I think is really exciting and just super helpful because it does affect how I do my job. And am I going to
That
send an email out
visibility,
today?
yep, the
Yeah.
visibility is huge,
Yeah.
especially in those BDR, SDR roles. This can be pretty thankless. If you haven't been in one before,
Oof.
you're getting proverbially punched in the face quite a bit. So how do you keep
Hopefully
them
not
going?
literally.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so you got to figure out ways to make that fun and make that grind a little easier, and
Yeah.
visibility in more public forums of them hitting these activities can be huge, because then their third level manager puts an emoji on them
Yeah.
hitting their call goal. And that took the third level manager a quarter of a second. But that frontline BDR is like, wow, they saw
Whoa.
real time that I did it. I'm going to keep going.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, I love emoji. That's a good distraction in my day too, to like go celebrate somebody and, then get back to work. So, all right. Well, that was really helpful as far as just organizing your time. And I do, just to reiterate the real time component to all of that. That was really the view of what the rep sees. But yeah, as a leader, you in ambition or in some other way need to figure out how you can constantly be getting feedback and know exactly where people are. So tip number 3 is actually use your sales formula in your one-on-one. So you figured out the math, where people stand, what you're measuring them on. But yeah, how do you actually bring this into those 45-minute conversations? So we're going to look at that now. So what is this, Mark?
Yeah. So this is actually inside of an Ambition one-on-one. This is actually a
That's a
one-on-one
real one.
I had with Matt on our team.
Yeah.
And your sales formula is going to give you the leading indicators and lagging indicators of where someone is having success and where they might be challenged. So, what this one on one is also showing is a current initiative of mine. And if you look at this pick one opportunity question, we have a stage in our sales process that we call Champion's Choice Confirmed. And what that means is that Jamie, if she's at the future customer and she says, "Hey, Mark, I want Ambition, like I'm going to go advocate to get it bought," then we have a champion internally, and we know that it's really a matter of when, not if, they're going to be a customer. And so, how can I, as the leader, help my team in these later stage deals to help them be as aligned as possible on what the customer wants and how we can help them get there? So you see me driving that, but also there's a metrics tab in this one-on-one that will show red, yellow, green on the sales formula of how Matt is performing in this example. So um, the the value of the one-on-one, to me, is that all the metrics are already there. There's no digging. They are one button click away. The other piece is that the initiatives that I am driving, whether it be Champion's Choice Confirmed Pipeline or you name it, it lives here in the one-on-one and it's coached on consistently while that is top of mind. So
Mhm.
I change these one-on-one structures quite often, but current state, this is exactly what I use. So,
Well,
sorry, go
oh,
ahead.
oh no, I was going to say, we're showing it in ambition, obviously, but we know not everyone's a customer. So it's like,
Yeah,
just again, it's kind of like the alerts, like whatever way it works for you, like this is built to the best practice. So it's, even if it's pulling up a Salesforce dashboard or whatever it might be, like you need to be looking at those records and alongside what their output is alongside like where you stand and pulling that all together in those conversations. Is that kind of the gist?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, and when for a sales rep, there's so much noise, there's so many things happening, that it's important that in the one-on-one, you all are able to come prepared, know what's going to be discussed. And what you don't see here at the bottom is there's like a what else. And
Mhm.
oftentimes that's where they're going to surface other things in the conversation. But by being prepared walking in and knowing what to expect, it's a more beneficial conversation. but also it's moving quicker. The time about what else is much more valuable. And you're giving that employee a safe place to talk about the things that are important to them, but you're also accomplishing the most important things to the business in the same.
Yeah. And I think that's huge. And that's something that I know, just in my sort of interviews with customers and things over the past year, that sort of safe space and giving people room, to give you feedback and provide that is huge. And so is that that what else portion, is that kind of always in your one-on-ones even when you change the other stuff?
Yeah, I think you have to create a place where your employee feels comfortable giving you feedback too. I
Mhm.
think that's a huge miss. A lot of sales leaders try to be too intimidating and not human enough and act like they have every answer to every question. That's a losing strategy, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, the people on your team are going to have a better idea than you do. So, how do you create a place where they're going to share those ideas? And they might be fantastic ideas that then you can replicate across the team. And in your Thursday afternoon hold, where you're coaching on whatever the initiative is, perhaps that becomes the initiative, right? So, yeah, creating a place where they can give you that feedback is super important.
I have a question for you. I'm going off script here.
Sure.
How much, in that week, obviously we looked at really the structured time that you're making to have very intentional conversations. But, I look here, at what you're writing about, I know, and I just know from working with you that you do get very involved in those, you and our CRO both. Sometimes you need that sort of executive layer to come in and talk one to one with people and
Sure.
just get it done. How much of your time in a week is spent to those kind of activities? Is that the majority of it?
Yeah. I mean, Tuesday afternoon through Thursday, there's sometimes that on Friday, of course, but I think I saw some data out there recently that the Tuesday through Thursday was like your best shot at getting them to confirm a meeting. I don't think we've tried to do that on purpose, but that tends
Yeah.
to be how it falls. And yeah, as a sales leader, oftentimes you're asked to come in to help late. That's not to negotiate something or because you have like the silver tongue that has the right story to tell. It's oftentimes, and I get it, a customer wants to meet the
Yeah.
leaders in the company and understand like if the companies are aligned as well. And so
Yeah.
um yeah, I'm on a lot of those calls often. And my approach to that, because I know we have several sales leaders on, is I always want my account executives to feel autonomous enough where they don't have to have me in that conversation, but I ask them to add me into those conversations, especially when there's like a matching of titles.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to bring my VP of sales to this. It feels good to say, great, I'll bring mine too. I definitely want to get them connected. If you guys decide to become customers of ours, I'm sure they'll be, in contact. And so that does put me on a lot of conversations,
Yeah.
but that's the best part, right? I
Yeah.
love that stuff. As sales leaders, we live on islands a lot.
Yeah.
So it's great to be connected with others and hear what they're doing. And obviously, if we can help them, that's really fun too.
I love that. I'm learning a lot about your schedule now. I'm like, should we have done this today? We're gonna do the next one on
Yeah, I'm just on
Friday afternoon.
webinars all day long.
Well, I thank you for taking the time. So in this example, so just continuing to talk about the content, and I know you sort of touched on it a second ago. And there's a lot of too many words on the slide, but whatever. It's for posterity. Sort of walk me through, and we've talked about the consistency. We've obviously talked about like coaching to data. So these aren't necessarily the exact questions that you ask, but what is your process for what
Yeah.
they need to do and prepare before they get there? And like, what do you prepare before you get there so that when you have that 30 or 45 minutes, it's the most impactful that it can be?
Yeah. I'll start it with a story because I have made this mistake. So if you're in sales, you have definitely had what I would call the drive-by one-on-one. The drive-by one-on-one, if I'm on Jamie's team, She walks over to my desk, or I guess the 2021 example would be she slacks me or texts me or whatever and says, "Hey, I've got nothing to talk about today. Do you have anything?" Well, then you're kind of incented to say no.
Yeah.
And so if this office example, "Hey, do you have anything to talk about?" You're like, "No, I don't." And then the leader goes, "Great. Well, I'll give you your 30 minutes, your 45 minutes, your hour back.
Yes.
Let me know if you need me."
So benevolent. Here you go.
Yes.
I'm not going to
And
help you.
and don't do that.
Yeah.
And the reason I say don't do that is oftentimes there are things that that frontline employee actually wants to talk with you about. They just know you're so busy, and they also don't want to be under the microscope, perhaps. And so they're going to pass on that time. So what we do, and what I have certainly found to be really effective, and a lot of our customers have too, is that you build a one-on-one that is consistent on whatever time frame works for you all. We have a lot of customers do it every 2 weeks. I do it every week. Um, and it's focused on some really simple questions that you just saw in that last visual.
Mhm.
And usually it's 5 to 7 questions. So it shouldn't take them all that long to fill it out, but they're my questions. The employee fills it out ahead of time. So when we come to the one on one, I have already read it, I have already seen it. We come to that meeting and we are aligned almost immediately on what needs to be discussed. The other, like, really deep passion of mine in the one on one is that it needs to be employee led. So it is your questions, of course, but if you, as the manager, are just talking to your salesperson, that is ineffective. They will not remember enough. Back to this whole driving initiatives, like they're going to remember what they said. That's also a sales thing, right? If you're in a demo and you talk the whole time, they probably don't remember a lot. But if
Yeah.
they're talking, they're going to remember it, right? So make it employee led, have them walk you through the one-on-one. You ask additional questions and perhaps provide like additional insight if they're missing the mark on whatever the piece of the one-on-one that they're talking about. But this ultimately has you both on the same page. It's documented, so you can see the historical conversations too. And it takes the ambiguity out of the, "Hey, I don't know, boss. What do you want to talk about today?"
Yeah.
And then it's ineffective. Nothing happens. You're not moving the needle. I don't know. It's social hour
Right.
for 25 minutes, and that's
Well, and
not a
just
way a business is changing to run a
no.
one-on-one.
When I was going to say, even if you, and I'll go back to this example, even if you were to just ask me these questions on the spot, like I don't know. I don't have the data in front of me. Like, okay, let me go to Salesforce and type it all in. Or I don't know if you just ask me off the top of my head, like what the most important deal is, I may just say the first thing that pops in my head because I know we only have 30 minutes. I'm on the
Yep.
spot. Or I may say like not the most thoughtful answer, the one that makes me look the best, like, and I think this also just sort of keeps people honest too. If you give them time for their brains to process and think and not panic,
Yep.
they might tend to like actually ask for things that they need instead of just like, this is my only time with my boss and I want to look good, So, um,
Yep. Very true.
yeah. And Angelina has a great question. Just sort of talking to in this example, for instance, how we use conversation intelligence tools. So,
Yeah.
so we use Chorus. There's also Gong, which we're sort of an agnostic
Yeah. Gong's great.
friend to all of those. But yeah, um, in this example, if you were to use Chorus, you would actually be able to access Chorus or
Yeah.
Gong
So where
within
you
those
see
views.
that Power BI at the top,
Mhm,
Ambition can embed third-party applications in,
mhm.
and that's actually where you would see Chorus. That's how we have it set up for us.
Yeah.
Could do similar things with Gong. But to another answer to that, Jelena, though, is that I do call coaching throughout the week too, even if I'm not on them live, where I can use those on 1.75 speed or 2x. It's amazing how you get to the point where you can hear the chipmunks talking and still coach. Uh, and in those tools, you can document some of the call coaching. What I find is helpful though is I'll build that template inside of Ambition, and that way that call coaching, these one-on-ones, other notes, they're all in one place and they're logged by calendar date. So I can see when these things were discussed. And that's how I keep it all in one place.
And I know we have a client, and I think they registered for this webinar, so they shall remain nameless. But we had a customer that I remember talking to not that long ago that, they even had an initiative around, okay, we are rolling out a new sales methodology. Here are the things you have to say these words, like you have to say these specific types of things. Um, and we're going to track it here, and actually we'll move on to action plans here in a second, but they started to build a curriculum around how the call coaching worked. So they would pull in specific
Yeah.
words, and if they didn't consistently see those words being said over time, then you wouldn't pass, and you wouldn't be able to actually like move out of the training and go sell the new tools until you did it. So they could actually use this to verify and coach to, like,
Yeah,
onboarding
so a lot of
a
these
new
tools
program.
call trackers, and whatever
Mhm.
that word is, it could be your competitor's name, it could be budget, it could
Yep.
be pain. Any word you can track there, and those actually can be visualized inside of parts of ambition. So
Mhm.
being able to set goals around those, maybe you want to limit the amount of ums in a demo, you could do that. So that's another common use case. Yeah, and I remember when we heard that come across from this customer, I was like, damn, that's smart. I like that a
Yeah.
lot.
I was like, we're gonna do that now.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and moving into the last bit, because I do want to do this, and we got some other questions as well. But tip number 4 is just coming up with a plan. So you have the time that you're going to do it. You know what you're coaching around, what goals matter. You know now kind of how you want to structure those conversations and how you want to prepare for them and go into them. But then, as Mark said, he does 45 minutes. That last 15 minutes is probably coming up with the next steps. Like, what do we do? Okay, you're falling behind here, or this is a really big thing, or we got to win this one. So tell me about action plans. Tell me how you do this. And again, to reiterate, we're showing product, but these are just things that you can and should do,
Yeah.
regardless of using ambition or not. But walk me through this.
Yeah. So in a one-on-one, if you're talking about the important questions and it's employee led, and you're talking through the different deals or different initiatives, more often than not, there will be a deliverable that comes out of that one-on-one. It
Mhm.
could be as simple as, Mark, can you please call Jamie at customer X to see if she'll talk with prospect Y? Well, most people just log that in like your Apple Note or your Google
Mhm.
Doc or your whatever your checklist is. Well, oftentimes those deliverables, though, need to be time bound and they need to be tied to data. In an example where perhaps you're behind on your meeting set goal for the month, or you're on a performance improvement plan because you're behind on several things. Well, what we do here at Ambition is we can create that time bound. Let's say we're at the end of the month, but let's say we're at the beginning of the month, and hey, you had a tough April, and in May we need to see X, Y, and Z. Well, we can create that in an action plan that's automatically going to take the data and tell us if the performance is happening. It's visible to the employee and the manager and whoever else is attached to the action plan, and ultimately it takes the gray out of performance, right? But it's automating that, so it's not additional admin work on either sides, and it's just again ensuring that they're on the same page. Now, what you could also do in an action plan, like another common use case, is that, hey, you're struggling in maybe your connect to appointment set ratio is really low. And so there's some call coaching that needs to happen. Jelena, here's a good example for you. Uh, Watch this chorus recording of Jamie, who's talking to so and so, right? And acknowledge that here by the end of day tomorrow, and also read this case study and acknowledge that by the end of day Friday. Well, you can create that document, set the time, and now you're not going to forget what the action item was because it's visible to you. You're alerted that it happened. And when it is closed or completed, you both are able to acknowledge that and move on to the next thing, right? So it's more than a task list. It's typically time bound. It's typically tied to data or a coaching conversation around a call recording or content that needs to be reviewed or something of that nature. You
Mhm.
can put all of that in one place, take out the admin work, make sure you're both aligned.
Exactly. Yeah, and that is we're at the tail end. There are some really good questions though. So I'm gonna ask you these questions. If you have any more, please throw them our way. You can send them directly, you can share them with everyone. Follow your heart. But the good question that I have that I want to ask first is, do you have any tips on building trust and authority quickly when you inherit an SDR or BDR team from a manager that is leaving? Ooh.
Yes. Uh,
How do you do that?
quick story. First job out of school, I was managing retail stores for AT&T. Basically, the concept was they would send you to the worst stores and you would flip them. And by flip, I don't mean like fire everybody. I mean like turn the performance around, and then they'd send you to the next one. And so I was 22. I was often coming in after a manager who was like double my age. Most of my sales reps were a lot older than me too. So you can imagine like this kid walking in, and I remember being really worried about this exact thing.
Hmm.
And what they coached me to do, and what I would tell you to do in this example, is you need to have a one on one with every single person on that team. Well, let me back up one step. Ask your new boss if there's anyone on that team that they are going to force you to get rid of, because you need to know that early. If the answer is no, one on one with every single person, and you need to tell those people that they have a clean slate with you. You don't care what happened in the past. You're here to help them win now. And you're committed to doing whatever you can to helping them be successful in the role if they want to be successful. Now, part of that is you're going to hold them accountable. The second part of that is you're going to encourage them. And Ambition has started talking a lot about this. And in this example, I'm such an advocate of you have to create accountability and encouragement to build trust. Your BDR needs to know that you want them to win. And so by being able to meet with the team, meet with each person, understand how they think things are going, tell them that there's a clean slate with you, but there will be accountability and encouragement in moving forward. And then through your actions, you do hold them accountable. You do encourage them. You're high fiving them when they win. You're
Yeah.
publicly celebrating. They start to see, wow, Mark's for real. Like he really does
Yeah.
want me to win. This wasn't just something he said.
Right. That's great. Now I'm like, I want to sell cell phones with you, Mark. And accessories. All right. So next question. This one is very I think of the times. So how do you approach someone wanting to meet in person when you are uncomfortable and would rather have the meeting on Zoom? I feel like this is such a good question that like this is the kind of stuff that I would want to talk about in a one-on-one. Like, hey, I'm uncomfortable and I don't know how to say this. Like, help me,
Yeah.
just tell me what to say. Like,
So I think there's two parts to this answer. The first is if you have people operations, human resources, you should make that pretty clear to them that it's not specific to meeting with this one person, but just like overall, you prefer to still be on Zoom until
mhm,
X happens. Um, my other answer here, though, is I think in general, people, this is a big statement, but aren't honest enough. And so just share that with your boss. Hey, I would love to meet with you in person, but frankly, I feel more comfortable still doing it over Zoom. And put yourself in your boss's shoes. Maybe they want to meet with you in person because they feel like it'll be more effective.
mhm.
So ask them, is there any way I can prepare for the conversation to make sure uh, that we can be as effective as possible, even though we're still meeting over Zoom? So don't be afraid to speak up, especially in this new normal. It's pretty expected. Like it shouldn't be a
Yeah,
surprise.
right.
Use your HR team, but also just be kind and direct with your boss.
Well, and I think it's interesting. I know have again a client, I think they may be on this webinar, that on the flip side too, not just from a manager to rep relationship, but they're having to go through one of their big initiatives is going through and actually teaching. They had to teach all of their field reps how to digitally sell. And now they're having to teach all of the unteach some of the digital sales tactics to teach them how to now sell to half of the people are on Zoom and half of the people are in the boardroom with you. And so I think there's some really interesting, that's kind of a
Oh yeah,
slightly different
that's a whole
question,
nother webinar.
but it's
Yeah.
a whole other webinar. But it is those questions. We should actually just write that because it's very top of mind right now. I think just how we meet, even taking a step back, is radically in
For the
limbo.
Yeah, oh my gosh. So in the for the sales leaders, even if your company is very like we don't have the video on, if you're trying to build trust, have the video on. Show them your face, smile, be in your laundry room office. It creates some trust because they see that you're not all that different from them. And I
Right.
think the humanization that happened in 2020 is so massive for people understanding personal lives, and turn your video on.
I so in my role, I am the buyer a lot more than I mean, obviously not selling stuff. And if you are trying to sell me something and you don't turn on your camera, I'm like, I just tune out. Like, I'm like, you don't respect me. Like, you didn't prepare. The one exception I gave is a guy was like, he turned it on for a second. He was like, I have a horrible eye injury. And I was like, we're good. We're good, buddy. But yeah, it's, you better have a really good reason. I think it's just a table stake at this point. That is a great point. Okay. We have time for one more, unless anyone else has something burning that they need to know. Um, this one is good. This one's kind of piggybacking a little bit on the one you answered earlier, but it's just something that is currently happening. So I find that my senior reps are resistant to coaching. They know everything, of course. And any tips on how to refocus their behavior without getting an eye roll? So I think you kind of touched on it, a little bit in the other answer, but yeah,
Your
that's
senior
tough.
folks, yeah, this
They know
is
everything.
real. I
Yeah.
have lived this. So my 2 cents on this is that, again, be kind and direct. Tell them that, hey, we'll make up a name, Mary. Uh, we have a Mary on our team. I shouldn't pick on Mary.
Right.
Susie. Uh, so hey, Susie, like I understand that you've had a lot of success here and that you've been here. My job, of course, is to make this team better, to make you better. So I know this coaching thing might feel a little foreign to you, but I want you to know I'm obviously here to help you be more successful. And I need to make sure you're open to coaching in the future. Are you open to coaching? By the way, powerful way to open any question. Are you open? Who doesn't want to be open, right? Um,
That's
so,
smart. Are
so
you open to
ask
buying
them, are you
ambition?
open? Yep.
Are you
Another
open to giving me
quick
your baby?
point, and then I'll stop. I'll give a Brene Brown shout out if anybody ever listens to Brene Brown.
Yeah.
But a really powerful thing here is to say, hey, Susie, the story I'm telling myself, start it like that. The story I'm telling myself is that you've been here a long time and you're not all that eager to be coached by me, your new manager. Is that fair? The story I'm telling myself is a great frame. It's true. And then they're going to tell you how they really feel.
I love
But
that.
I would come back with being just kind and direct around you have a job to do. You're here to help them.
Yeah.
Are they open?
And I think that's a great ending to this conversation because, we did touch on, the importance of data, which data can feel cold and impersonal, but the data enhances the conversation, but your humanity is what makes you a great coach. And that's a dynamic coaching model. So be human, use data, ask people what story they're telling. So I love it. Thank you, Mark. And thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
Yeah, thank you for listening. And again, we'll send you this recording. We'll send you some resources. Yeah, I had fun. Thanks. All
Thanks, team. We'll
right.
talk to you later.
Bye.